In an earlier video, I read Psalm 119, and I was struck by how many times affliction was used. 4 times in this psalm. And I want you to listen because I think it's really important. If only all of us had this perspective instead of trying to scream away what God's doing or pray it away or whatever. If only we had this perspective to understand that God is the one who sends destruction and he is the one who brings prosperity. That God is the one who is disciplining and building us and sparing us from going down to the pit. So Psalm 119, verse 67, before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I obey your word. Oh, so there was something in that affliction that taught the psalmist to obey his word. That taught the psalmist the correlation between their sin and them being or needing to be tamed like an unruly calf. I very much relate to this. I talk about it in the books that I've written. I talk about on the channel. God only had to bring me to the brink of death to get me to turn away from the pit. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I obey your word. And verse 71, it was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees. Oh, so you become motivated when you're afflicted. Okay. Verse 75, I know, Lord, that your laws are righteous and that in faithfulness you have afflicted me. That is really important right there. That in faithfulness you have afflicted me. God afflicts his people in faithfulness. Judgment has begun with God's house. The wicked will receive their judgment later, but judgment has begun with God's house. He is disciplining us. He's building us. He is dealing with us to cause us to turn away from the pit. And the last one is verse 92. If your law had not been my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. So what does that mean? Well, when God is sending affliction to you, you need to respond. And you need to respond with the heart that is true, that understands his word, that seeks truth. The psalmist is saying that if your law had not been my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. In other words, it would have had no sense, no understanding about what God was doing. If only we understood, if only we had this perspective that God knows what is good. Let God do what he knows is good, and we trust in that, right? In repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength. We got to be brought into position. If we're not going to bring ourselves into position, we'll be brought there. And also, there are some places that we're not capable of bringing ourselves. In fact, this covenant is far greater. There is far more responsibility on us than we're being pitched, but even more than I had ever even imagined. I know what I have done to prove myself, to prove my love and my commitment to the Lord, and he brings me deeper still, lower still, and then he shows me where that is in the word. And we really do need to start taking him seriously, taking him at his word, and looking at the examples who've been set before us, because I'm telling you, I didn't have the eyes to even see how low he brings his servants until he started bringing me low. I thought that I had done quite a bit, giving up my careers and, the things that I've done, giving for free and believing in him, trusting in him to provide for me, giving away my wealth, giving of myself for free every single day. I thought that was kind of a lot, but he expects even more. And he expects that you will continue to be brought lower and lower into this covenant, and that you continue to be on that trajectory of growth until you're done here. There's no slacking. There's no reason why you would be on this earth if you've already completed your covenant. God does not give grief willingly. You gotta complete your covenant. Even though the witnesses, their testimony is completed on the 1260th day, they still are going to be imprisoned for 10 days and are still going to be martyred. You would think, well, haven't they done what they came here to do? No, there's still more that needs to happen. And God says, endure even to the point of death. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown. You would think that they had done all that they could do, but even still, they'll be imprisoned. Job 33, verse 8, Elihu is speaking to Job, and he says, "You have said in my hearing, I heard the very words, I am pure, I've done no wrong, I'm clean and free from sin, yet God has found fault with me. He considers me his enemy. He fastens my feet in shackles, but keeps close watch on all my paths. But I tell you, in this you are not right, for God is greater than any mortal. Why do you complain to him that he responds to no one's words? For God does speak, now one way and now another, though no one perceives it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they slumber in their beds, he may speak in their ears and terrify them with warnings to turn them from wrongdoing." Do you see the reason he's doing it? Terrifying them with warnings to turn them from wrongdoing and keeping them from pride, to keep them from the pit, their lives from perishing by the sword. Or someone may be chastened on a bed of pain with constant distress in their bones. Wait a minute, I thought the devil did that. Nope. God sends everything, guys. The devil might be used to do this, but God is the one who sent it. Or someone may be chastened on a bed of pain with constant distress in their bones, so that their body finds food repulsive, and their soul loathes the choicest meal. Their flesh wastes away to nothing, and their bones once hidden now stick out. They draw near the pit, and their life to the messengers of death. This was my story, guys. When I read it after God had healed me, I sobbed over the story. I mean, I couldn't even get through the story without crying. I just couldn't even believe that my story was here in the Word. They draw near to the pit in their life to the messengers of death. Yet if there is an angel at their side, a messenger, 1 out of 1,000, sent to tell them how to be upright, and he is gracious to that person and says to God, spare them from going down to the pit. I've found a ransom for them. Let their flesh be renewed like a child's. Let them be restored as in the days of their youth. Then that person can pray to God and find favor with him. They will see God's face and shout for joy, and he will restore them to full well-being. And they will go to others and say, I have sinned. I have perverted what is right, but I did not get what I deserved. God has delivered me from going down to the pit, and I shall live to enjoy the light of life. Now listen, God does all these things to a person twice, even 3 times, to turn them back from the pit, that the light of life may shine on them. Does God know what's best, or does man know what's best? Man does not know anything, guys. We can't even save ourselves. We have a lot of judgments about what God does and a lot of stupid stories about who's sending what God alone is sending in his sovereignty. Affliction is good. It is good for us to be afflicted and brought into the position that we didn't even know we needed to be in. Please discern this message with God and bring yourself into this paradigm. Because if you don't get a good grasp on this, it's going to be very difficult for you to receive what God is doing in you.